I know that's right.
Mais comment ça va, Chef Harley Fontenot, better known as Parrain, and we're making a catfish courtboullion today. And I got some catfish right here. We got some Scotch Cajun seasoning, some onions. We got a little garlic action happening over here. We got some tomato juice. We got some seafood stock. I got 1/4 of a cup of flour and 1/4 of a cup of bacon grease. But if you don't have bacon grease, you can just stick the butter in your pocket. And you can't forget your little sugar pouring off ad. We're gonna use that. I got a little pinch of sugar in there, and that's to cut the acidity of the tomato paste. And here we got our onions, and you're gonna chop the tips off of that. And you're gonna do what's called julienning the onion. Some of y'all might not know what that means, but that's all right, I'm gonna show y'all. So after you peel your onion, what you wanna do is see all the little lines in the onion right here? Yeah, I might have to come look a little closer than that. And you're gonna see all these little lines and stuff in the onion. You're gonna try to slice along those lines. And you don't have to be real thin, but you don't wanna be super thick either. You don't want a big ridiculous piece of onion in your mouth while you're trying to eat. So watch out for your little fingers and slice along that. And when it gets too sharp like this, you're gonna flip it, see? Or you can finish it off. You can go ahead and do that with all of them. And thanks to Renzo Woodworks, I got this nice cutting board I can use like a handle to put my onions into my bowl, and that makes that a lot easier. And that doubles as a paddling off ad for them kids if they bad. Now, we're gonna take our fish and we're gonna plop it down on the cutting board. And you're gonna look for these little thin white strips on the sides of it sometimes that they have, and that's the fat. And we're gonna trim that off. As you leave the fat on the catfish, it gives it that real strong, that fishy taste. I know it's fish, but you don't want it to taste that strong. So you trim that up, and you're gonna cut little strips into it, but first we're gonna season it. And I'm gonna go with that Scotch. I think that's gonna be perfect for this courtboullion right here. You go both sides on that bad boy right here. Then you're gonna cut across the fish like this to about 1 inch thick slices this way. And you're gonna scoop it up and try to keep it together, even though it's already sliced, and put it aside. That way they can have a chance to have that seasoning soaking in there. We're gonna get started heating up your pot. So we're gonna start out at the pot, dumping our butter or oil or bacon grease, whatever you're putting in there, and let that get real hot. You touch your little onions in there to see if it sizzles, and oh, it didn't sizzle this time, so that's not ready. So you wait till it sizzles. And now that your onions are sizzling, we're gonna dump all of them in there. Every one of them little sons of going clean in the. And we are gonna cook this way down. It's gonna add a whole lot of depth of flavor to this tomato sauce that we're gonna add to it. But I'm gonna show y'all. We're gonna cook it till it's clear, and then it's got the brown tips, and it's gonna cook down even further than that. We're almost gonna caramelize the onions. Don't get scared though, it's not hard. That's real easy. Mama taught me how to do that when I was about 8 years old probably. Now, while that's cooking, I'm gonna tell y'all a little story. So when I was young, my brothers used to like to scare me a lot. And see, I used to like to go cook with my mama. That's what got me starting wanting to cook like this all the time. So when I was young, my brothers told me they had a monster lived in the cabinet, and his name was Tony Sashray, and it had some big old long claws, and if it looked you in your eyes, it'd scratch your eyes out. So I was scared of the cabinet in the kitchen. But there I was, sitting on the counter watching my mama cook some squash. And she asked me to pass her the Tony Sashray that's in the cabinet. Oh, I started screaming. She said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Man, I ain't opening that cabinet." I was like 5 years old. I said, "I ain't going in that cabinet." I said, "Tony Sashray is in there." She said, "What? It's just Tony Sashray." She opened the cabinet. Oh, I was screaming. She pulled out some seasoning. Oh, I feel like a plum fool in there. And that's all because of my brothers being some couillons trying to scare me. So after you cook that down, it's gonna look like this. Keep it on kind of like a medium to low heat while you're cooking that. And you want to wilt all them onions real good. I know I said to caramelize them. I didn't really mean to caramelize them, because this is not caramelized. They just cook down real well. And this is how my mom taught me how to do that for a tomato gravy or a courtboullion. And look, I know a lot of people do their courtboullion different, but in Louisiana, that's just how it is. All the families cook things differently. This is just how my grandmother used to cook this. So we're gonna add that flour, and I done told y'all that's 1/4 of a cup of flour, just like it's 1/4 of a cup of bacon grease. And if you cook that, and there's not a lot of oil left over when you go to add your flour, add a little bit of oil and get it hot before you stir this in. But we still had a little bit. And we're gonna cook that into it. And it's gonna form like a paste with the onion. And you're gonna have your tomato sauce ready, because we're gonna add that to it as soon as we get this all mixed in real good. And once you cook all that into there, which is what you're doing, is making like a blonde roux with bacon grease if you got that, or butter is good too, like I said. But once all that's in there, you're gonna add your tomato sauce. That's hot, just like my pockets. Try not to make a mess on your little stove. That's real bad. I want to tell you what that looks like, but Parrain's not gonna go there. I'm a classic guy. So, doggone it. That thing's being canard, that means crazy. Now, finally, after 20 minutes of me putting sauce into the pot, we can proceed. So, I'm gonna mix all that sauce. I'm gonna mix all that sauce into there real good. Then, we're gonna put your seafood stock. And I'm using a homemade seafood stock that I had in the refrigerator. I'm stirring that in there, and I'm gonna add some garlic. Ooh, that homemade seafood stock is strong, yeah. That smell like them poke boats. You know, stir that garlic in there. I guess you could say that's like a tablespoon. I like a lot of garlic though. So we're gonna let this simmer, and I'm gonna show y'all what to do with the sugar. So you're gonna take your sugar dispensing fat, and you're gonna put a pinch of sugar in there. And you put the pinch of sugar because you don't want it to be sweet, but you want to cut back on that tomato just a little bit. And you already know we're gonna put some seasoning in here. So I'm gonna stretch over here and get some Scott's Cajun seasoning. And we're gonna shake some of that in there. So once you add your seasoning, what you wanna do is taste it and make sure it's seasoned to your liking. If you want more, you add more. If you don't, then just leave it how it is. What else you gonna do? But that's why you add a little bit at a time. But you see, look how thick that is, Chef. That's way too thick, yeah. That's like a red pudding. like a blood pudding. That's way too thick. So what we're gonna do is put a little bit of water. See, I got a big old thing of water I've been holding this whole time. We're gonna just put a little splash of that, just to loosen it up a little bit, because it's too thick. So what you're gonna do is add a little bit of water at a time and stir it up, because if you don't, then this might happen. Because when it's thick like that, it'll make it fart, partner. Because look, that thing is getting it. And that's because the heat is too high, for one. And it's also, see, look at that thing, blub blub. That's why we need to add some water. A little bit of water. You don't want it to be too thin, but you don't want it to be too thick. So what you're gonna do right here is pour all that sauce after you let that simmer into the 9x12 baking dish right here. And you're gonna smear all that out real good. And then what we're gonna do is take the fish and lay it across the top. And it is sliced, it just don't look like it. And you lay all that across. And then we're gonna put foil on that and put it in the oven at 350 degrees. So I know this is not normally how people make a courtboullion, but I do it this way because if you put it in a pot like you normally do, normally you'd stick it in the pot, the fish, and you can't stir it once you do that because the fish will fall apart. So you gotta sit there and shake the pot and all kind of stuff. And see, I know how to do it that way, but I find this method to be a lot easier, because once you seal it up with foil and all that, you don't have to worry about stirring it and everything. It bakes the fish into the gravy. Then you spoon that over you. You're right. That's okay, I'm gonna show y'all. And once you take that out, allons manger, partner.